Hello Internet, Ralphie here at kiwiradio.nz, an independent radio station in New Zealand. Bit of a morning blog for you today. Want to talk about perception versus reality, especially as we share stories in social media. Want to be as honest as possible, really, and transparent if need be. So recently I posted a video about the studio tour and how amazing this creative space is, and how my goal this year is to really share that with my broader community so that we all get a shared enjoyment out of the space. It's very nice that when people make the time to come to the studio, and it's awesome for me as a music fan to have the space shared with talented, independent, underappreciated artists. And so I do have the odd question coming in about how long it took to build this studio, whether it's through envy or whatever it may be. There is the odd troll that likes to perhaps try and put me back in my place, I guess, because am I worthy of such an amazing studio? Well, here is my answer to that, and without sounding arrogant or anything like that, I just wanted to give you the transparency and be very kind of maybe perhaps give you the journey that I've been. Now, I am an older cat, won't disclose my age completely because that's embarrassing, but rest assured I've been in the music industry for at least 20 years. And there's been 3 significant stages that has helped me build this studio. The first stage is when I was 18. For about 4 years, I was doing music full time. That meant I had an in-house residency at Planet Pool back in Newmarket when it was open. No longer open, by the way. But you know, that was like stripper money. $200 a night, doing DJing for a couple of hours. Bear in mind, back then we didn't have streaming or anything like that, so I did have to buy CDs and physical media, which meant importing a CD for like $80, wouldn't even blink. I used to do that. And so that was kind of one income thing, and I was also an AV installer, audio video installer for a lot of big venues, and there are too many to name. A lot of the venues are closed now, but we're talking like King's Arms, we're talking Shadows, and all sorts of stuff. I was freelancing, and again, that was good money. And back then, the economy was great. It was booming. There were lots of live gigs, and Auckland's a big city of 1 million people, and it was really good. Times have changed now in 2025. In fact, the live gigging side of my income has completely dried up. I'm talking 1 gig every 6 months instead of every odd weekend. And back then it was 4 or 5 each week. On top of that, I was also a wedding DJ. I managed to land myself a wedding DJ residency. Again, lots of gigs per week. And I wasn't the wisest person in the world when you're 18, 19 making that kind of money. But I remember at one point I was buying gear. I was putting most of it into gear, and at one point I had a credit card debt of $5,000. Very embarrassing, and I would not recommend anyone doing that at that age. But banks back then were at the universities shelling it out like candy. The borrower is slave to the lender. So this was before I read this book, Total Money Makeover by Ramsey. A bit of a game changer, and not a sponsor, but I do want to make sure that younger musicians have some sort of financial savviness, because a lot of the financial institutions like buy now, pay later and all that, a bit of a scam, and I don't recommend. Now, thankfully, I am debt-free, and with the exception of a mortgage, all this is paid off. So the first one is really just doing lots of gigs when I was younger and had the stamina. The second windfall is I became a signed artist and managed to do a 3-album deal with an independent artist that's kind of a branch of a major artist. Like the staff used to work at majors, but long story short, That didn't pan out very well, but I learnt a lot from being with a label, such as self-promotion and all that, and maintaining authenticity, and yeah, just really finding my sound, developing my sound. And long story short, crowdfunding came into the scene, and through that I managed to earn what I would like to call an average person's yearly salary into a 3-album deal. I'd be interested to know what perceptions are like, and let me know if you think you know the number I managed to raise in terms of dollars for crowdfunding. But it was a 3-album deal. If you've got any comments to what you think it might be, place it below. Most of the people that backed me were actually from Europe. We're talking Germany, Netherlands, not really New Zealand. New Zealand wasn't really in the in the radar. But yeah, that was through sort of like a German crowdfunding outfit, which, by the way, they're closed now because it turns out that they were embezzling some funds. So long story short, that was an interesting ride, but managed to get that windfall, and again, most of it went back to this. The third windfall really is there was what I call like pre-pandemic. There was a golden time for thrifting. I'm talking 3 or 4 years where in New Zealand we have thrifting stores for electronics especially. We call it the cashies. And I remember, like, for example, this drum machine, I managed to be very friendly to the salesperson and got this for $300. I was getting gadgets up to 70% off retail, and because I was an avid thrifter, I lived close to thrift stores, and I was doing it so frequently, like I'm talking 3 times a week, and I managed to build up, get keyboards and all sorts of things through that journey of about 3 intense years. And that's really it, really. Fast forward to now 2025, I've slowed down my purchasing, again debt-free with it, and I've become content with what I have, especially with software coming out and technology, AI tools, all the software that a lot of it you can be done with just a MIDI keyboard and your computer. Of course, it's a lot more fun and tactile when you've got the keyboards and stuff to play with, but at the end of the day, it's not it's the person, the creator behind it. Yeah, so thank you very much for listening to my morning chat, and see you soon. Keep it locked on kiwiradio.nz.